2, 1. Welcome to Speaking Cinema, Serious Movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you from the Wild West Village of Hollywood, California.
Yeehaw!
I am your host, Butch Cassidy Jibber Jabber, and I'm here with Kevin, the kid, Merritt.
So you're Paul Newman and I'm Dustin Hoffman, huh?
Yeah.
I can live with that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
I will.
Follow us on Twitter at Speaking Cinema, Facebook at Speaking Cinema. Listen to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, wherever you want. This week on the Jibber Jabber, no man can walk out of his own story. Nickelodeon Studios and Industrial Light and Magic's animated western Rango from 2011. Third movie in our animated series. Go back, listen to Akira and Inside Out. Okay, we're back. So, directed by Gore Verbinski, famous for Pirates of the Caribbean movies and The Ring remake. Those are his claims to fame. Kevin.
That's where he's made his bones, that's for sure. Yeah.
Speaking of bones, starring Johnny Depp, Isla Fisher, Bill Knightley, Alfred Molina, Ray Winstone, Harry Dean Stanton, Abigail Breslin, Stephen Root, Ned Beatty. Screenplay by John Logan, Hollywood veteran, who also wrote Gladiator, Skyfall, Sweeney Todd, and The Aviator. A lot of names in this movie.
This is stacked in front of the screen and behind the screen.
Heavy hitters. If you're not familiar, Rango, a chameleon, accidentally ends up in the town of Dirt, an outpost that is in desperate need of a new sheriff. This is the first animated movie for both Gore Verbinski and Industrial Light and Magic, aka ILM. ILM, known for doing effects in live-action movies, not known for creating a completely cartoon universe. A first for them.
And first for Gore.
Will they both live to regret it? Let's find out. Speaking of Gore, he used a unique method for recording the actors' voices in this movie. Instead of sticking them in a booth like a usual sound recording session, he had the actors wear costumes and perform the scenes on a bare-bones set and capture their voice performances that way, akin to maybe a play.
Yeah, it's very play-like.
If the actors shared a scene, they would act it together. These scenes were taped, and the clips can be found on the DVD extra features. Probably made it over to that Blu-ray, I'd assume. I also remember seeing them in some of the ads, where you see Johnny Depp in a weird scarf, kind of...
Yep.
Johnny Depp. I'm making motions like Johnny Depp right now, where I'm just kind of...
Wiggling his fingers like he's wearing 400 accessories.
Yep. Just covered, just fucking,
Head to toe in accessories.
Looking like a pirate meets a rock star.
Yep.
Gore wanted this movie to be a smaller experience compared to the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, but did not realize the amount of work an animated movie is. And then I say, come on, man.
Come on.
What?
Animation's hard work.
And that is dismissive attitude, Gore, and I don't like it at all.
I made like a 10-second flash animation in my tech apps class, and I almost died.
Me and Matt and Jeff, my friend Jeff, made a full-length stop-motion animated feature. It took us 4 fucking years.
Wow.
Yeah. Wait, what? You know about this, right?
No.
What?
I had no idea.
There's no fucking way.
I had no idea.
We've known each other for how many years now?
It's at least 3.
No, we've known each other for way longer than 3 years, right?
4 at the most.
Really? Anyways, there's no fucking way I haven't brought this up at least a dozen times.
I do not. This is my first.
We're gonna take this conversation offline. But how dare you? All right. To you, I say, come on, man.
No, come on, man.
The film contains a number of references to movie westerns and other films, including The Shakiest Gun in the West, A Fistful of Dollars, Chinatown, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, Cat Ballou, Raising Arizona, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Verbinski also cited El Topo as an influence on this movie. El Topo, guys.
Yeah. Jodorowsky. Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Really obtuse.
Yep.
This film won the 2011 Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, which is significant, as it is an outsider winning that trophy. Normally Pixar wins. If not them, then their sister company Disney. And if not them, then their rival DreamWorks.
Yeah, I think that was a year there was no Pixar movie up for Best Animated, so it was going against like some DreamWorks and some foreign stuff. Mm-hmm. But still, it taking the trophy, as we're gonna discuss, it's kind of a weird little movie. So the fact that it got recognized with that is pretty cool.
Right. And I like how you put that. The fact that it got recognized by the Academy.
Yep.
Right. That's an interesting thing because they love their Pixars, they love their Disneys, they like their DreamWorks. So there's a brief controversy over the depiction of smoking in this film, as the organization Breathe California wanted this film tagged with an R rating for showing smoking in what is ostensibly a kids movie, right? I mean, I don't think that's a controversial statement to say this is a kids movie. The MPAA did not pursue, and the PG rating was kept intact.
Yeah, I remember that was a very brief controversy, but it was, Breathe California, I believe, is Rob Reiner's activist group. And yeah, they had a big hard on for this movie, but it kind of blew over.
Yeah, and the message out there, the takeaway from this is, smoking is for jokers, kids. Winners don't use drugs. Except for musicians.
And professional athletes.
And Olympians.
And high-ranking executives.
Only those winners use drugs. Those are the only winners. Everyone else, though, don't use drugs.
Yep.
Unless you want to be a professional athlete. Rango is available on DVD and Blu-ray. Get your discs where you get them. Digital rentals and purchase through major retailers. You know what you like. I'm sure they're on there already. It's not streaming anywhere as of this recording. Has been on Netflix. Listen to the rest of this introduction. Listen to us Jibber Jabber. When we take that little musical sting in the middle, go check your fucking Netflix. It's not there. Go request it on disc. If you don't have that, shoot it over to fucking Vudu or iTunes or whatever and give it a rent. If it's not available for rent, Kevin will say buy it.
You'll want to buy it by the end of this podcast. Trust me.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this movie, Kev? You obviously have, because you're the one who picked it.
Oh yeah. I really saw a lot of the ads coming out, and I was like, who's making an anime movie about a chameleon? And I looked into it. It was like Gore Verbinski. I like his work a lot. Nickelodeon, ILM, doing it, written by John Logan. I was like, this has some real people behind it. So went and saw it the weekend it came out. Fell in love with it. Think it's a great film. Think people overlooked it because there's a lot of animated movies out there, and I think they just thought it was another just DreamWorks or some other company knockoff, Right. But I think this really is.
And we all know how much you hate fucking Pixar. You and Matt Pixar. DreamWorks. DreamWorks. How much you guys have a huge boner for Pixar but hate DreamWorks.
Yep. And I think this got just kind of forgotten, and I think it's a worthy film to talk about.
So you heard of it, you've seen it, you picked it, you wrote this introduction, and now I gotta ask myself, am I interested in this movie? At the time it came out, the answer was no. I saw the poster. I remember I was at a mall, and every escalator you went down, the Grove, every escalator you went down, there was more pictures of Rango, and I'm like, God damn, this thing is ugly. And I was just like, I'm not into this. I'm not into this at all. And maybe I was in a more angry place at the time. I was like, this movie looks ugly. I don't want to see it. Why was it made? Now I've softened a little bit. Probably wouldn't have watched it without us doing this podcast. So I'm not gonna say I'm interested in it, but I'm also not gonna say I'm disinterested in it. I'm very neutral in this movie.
All right.
So you said, hey, watch this movie. So I said, you know what, Kev? I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then we're gonna talk about it. That's what this podcast is about. In case you were wondering.
Watching, talking, jabbering.
Well, talking, watching, talking, jabbering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that order.
Specifically, are you familiar with the work of Gore Verbinski?
Yeah, he's a director I follow. I think
you and many people, as he is the 9th highest grossing director of all time.
Is he now?
Yeah, which, as we all know, however much money you've made is directly tied to your worth as a human being.
Of course. I think he doesn't always get the best scripts, but his directing chops and his shot choices and special effects are always really strong. And I think he's a very talented filmmaker.
Speaking of his filmmaking, he did the Ring remake. He did the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The first 3, I believe, are all him.
Yep.
I'm not sure he did the 4th one.
No, that was Rob Marshall?
Rob Marshall, yeah.
Rob Marshall.
He did the Mexican and the Lone Ranger, which me and you both saw and thought was underrated for what it was.
Yeah, I thought people got way too caught up in the drama of it going over budget and the studio not being happy, and I thought...
Yeah, I don't work for the studio, I don't give a fuck, and it goes over budget, whatever, that doesn't mean anything to me at all.
My ticket's $10. We saw it for free, actually.
Yeah, we saw it for free, but, movie tickets in LA, matinee, $11, full price, $15, with the 3D, maybe $17. We saw it for free, even if I saw it for, 10 or 15 or whatever... I don't care what over budget. What does that affect me?
The third act of that movie is pretty great. The jumping around on the horses and running through the trains. And Quentin Tarantino actually cited. He was like, that is a fucking great action scene.
Hey, man. Tarantino.
Yep.
Quentin, if you want to be a guest on this show, we'll talk fucking Lone Ranger.
We'll talk it with you.
We'll talk Amos and Andy. We'll talk Lone Ranger. We'll talk Three Musketeers. Whatever you want, bro.
We're here, Quentin. We're here for you.
Maybe not Amos and Andy. I take that back. In our Inside Out episode, we talked about modern animation. we had a battle here between Pixar and
Little
Disney and DreamWorks, and there is a battle over those three entities kind of battled over the kids animation market. Gore Verbinski at the time of this release of this movie had this to say: "Whatever happened to the Ralph Bakshi's of the world? We're all sitting here talking about family entertainment. Does animation have to be family entertainment? I think at that cost, yes." And he's talking about the high cost of making an animated movie, $100+ million. There's a bullseye that you have to hit, and when you miss it by a little bit and you do something interesting, but the bullseye is going to move. Audiences want something new. They just can't articulate what. Kev, you would say that this movie hits that mold of what they want, but don't know that they want?
It's something different. It's something new. It's a different voice in the animated world. And it's getting very... I think it's getting... We talked about it in Inside Out. It's getting a little sterile. It's getting a little overstuffed. And I think we need more of these. Like he said, the Ralph Bakshi kind of guys off the mainstream doing stuff like this. And I think Rango really could be a good jumping off point.
And Rango, to Verbinski's point, was not shackled by the expectations of a DreamWorks or Disney movie, but it did have a $35 million budget.
$135 million.
130. That is a big $100 million difference. So yes, $135 million budget. So it's a weird thing. It's like we're entering an interesting time in cinema where the cost of doing special effects is going down on a technological front, where you don't need a mega budget to do good, what would be considered mega effects. Recent example is Ex Machina, which is a live-action movie that had a lot of very convincing, very good-looking CG effects, but was made with like a $15 million budget. Monsters by Gareth Edwards, who did Godzilla, is like another good example where they just had a guy with two lighting guys, two actors, and the director with the camera that just drove around Mexico and shot all these shots and then added all the monsters in afterwards. And it does work very well.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. He's in charge of Rogue One of the first Star Wars anthology films. So.
Indeed.
Guy making his way in the world.
And we'll get to that fucking movie in this podcast.
Yep.
Don't you worry. So, but what we're talking about here is, one can come to the conclusion that a more artistically minded filmmaker can explore special effects animated on a greater scale with a lower budget. What's your thoughts on that?
I think as the effects get bigger, $135 million is still a lot of money.
So that's a lot of money.
They're not going to crank out...
That's like some Ant-Man money.
Yeah, that's Marvel money. They're not going to crank out a Rango type movie 2 or 3 times a year. Like, you're going to get one if you're lucky, But I think as it goes on and the price does get lower, or they're able to do it maybe a little faster, I think a lot more artistic-minded filmmakers or just new guys who want to try it are going to be able to do it and get like some kind of studio backing for it. And that's going to really, I think, what's going to shake up the animated world.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that because, first of all, there's a difference between live action and cartoon, right? Because like a live action movie, you could kind of get away with, shortcutting the budget and making it forward with stuff because not every shot is this big fucking crazy world, right? Ex Machina, it's like every time you see the girl, and yeah, she's in half the movie, but that's only half the movie. That's not 100% of the movie. There's companies like, I know I'm going to say this wrong, Lakia, who made Coraline and Paranorman. Laika, who made Coraline and Paranorman, and Studio Saloon, which made Secret of the Kells and Song of the Sea. They're making quality animated movies on lower budget. Laika makes their movies for about $60 million, which is not high budget. It's really more mid budget, and movies don't really hit that $30 to $60 million budget anymore. It's all like micro budgets or blockbuster budgets. And Cartoon Saloon is more like $7 million. But it's tough because, does this become a race to the bottom? You know what I mean? Like you have basically at one point to make CG and effects, you needed special computers and all this stuff. And now you can just basically go buy powerful computers, but they're not super expensive. You're talking, $3,000, $5,000 kind of machines, right? Which is not a lot of money. And so then you have the machine, and then you got to pay the animator and do it. But then if these budgets come down, is it just a race to the bottom where you're exploiting people, not paying them well, trying to get as much work done as you can? I'm not accusing these two companies of doing that, but I question the...
You think somebody's going to exploit that?
Yeah, okay, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that they're probably not exploiting their people, but there's definitely people in Hollywood that are like, well, if they could do it for $7 million, we could do it for $6 million. Get some college graduates, you know what I mean?
I think it's all going to cycle back around to storytelling.
Right.
You know, who's going to be able, now that anybody can do it, who's going to tell the best story?
So you're thinking right now it's kind
I don't think we're at the point where anybody can do it just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Rango style movie or even a Pixar level, like the amount of animation they do. But it will get there eventually. You know, when that cycles around and when anybody can do, who's gonna rise to the top?
So there's always like the innovator and then the artist. And to compare this to skateboarding, which is how I view the world,
Why not?
there's like, so some guy, Alan Geflin, aka Alan Ollie Geflin, nickname Ollie, in Florida, did a trick where he jumps on his board and the board pops up with him. And it looks like shit and no one understands how he does it. And he invents the Ollie. So he's the innovator. It looks like shit. You can only do it in a ramp. No one knows what to do with it. But then eventually the artists find it and they innovate on it and they make something new. So it's kind of like right now we're in the phase of all of CG, all of filmmaking, right? Where there's these new innovations. We have digital stuff where, people basically, they take cameras that are the size of like a brick and they shoot HD footage and then they put it into their home computer and edit that HD footage and they can technically make a movie. But you really haven't gotten people who can really make that sing, right? That low budget thing go. You know what I mean? Where you innovate on top of that.
And we talked a little bit in the Starry Eyes episode about this,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll reiterate. When anybody can do it, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like you can get the people who really have a vision can finally recognize it, but you also get a lot of riffraff,
Right.
as well. So
And just because you can do the effects for cheap doesn't mean that the talent isn't needed to do color correction and do sound mixing and do sound editing and do final processing and outputting it. And why is it fucked up? And you got to figure it out. And it's like, it's not all there yet, I don't think. There's still, in the film world, there's still hardware that needs, not everything is software based, right? From our time at the Dub House, we know that there's hardware conversions that you need to do. And,
and somebody with the vision and the knowledge to pull it off.
Right.
That's always, James Cameron talked about on Terminator 2, he had a lot of smart, stupid people, he called them. He said they knew how to work the computers, they knew how to do the special effects, but when he told them it doesn't look right, all they can think about is, well, the numbers say it looks right.
Right.
And on paper it looks right, so what are you talking about? He says, no, it doesn't look right. Like, it doesn't work with this shot or whatever angle we're doing. And so it takes somebody with that vision and know how to bring it all together to make something memorable.
Mm-hmm. And so I think the Bakshi's of the world, right? Like Bakshi's a guy who took a little and made a lot, right? He was able to take cartooning and make Lord of the Rings the animated thing, which I don't like, but many people look at fondly. And I think right now we're in another layer of innovation in terms of distribution, where right now we can make something and put it out there on VOD or whatever. But if no one knows it exists, and the great example is that you, my friend, did not know that I made a full-length movie.
Yeah,
so it's like, somehow that one fucking step got skipped over. So how would I expect anyone else in the world to know about this movie if not even my friends know about it? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so on a grander scale, right, if you can make something for cheap, how do you get it in front of people? There's lots of streams, VOD, DHD, discs, theatrical, but if no one knows about it, criticize, like big marketing budgets, but it's like, but how else would people know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People criticize like the Avengers had a $200 million budget and a $100 million budget for advertising, but it's like without that $100 million budget, would you know exactly what date it comes out on? I don't think so. So it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting time where I think right now we've had innovations with technology, but now we need innovations with the other things that are around it. Is there like a social media or marketing innovation that can help promote movies, smaller movies? You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like a lot of smaller movies get traction with a great trailer.
right.
I think that's how people who wouldn't normally seek it out, I don't want to use the term viral because it gets overused, but a trailer goes out and people are like, hey, this thing looks really fucking cool, you know? And that's kind of when your average person seeks out something that's independent, you know? So I think it starts there, but yeah, I agree. It's like, do you need to spend the money on bus stop ads and billboards, or can you kind of do word of mouth?
And can someone, you need something to curate those in a way where people think, I want to watch a cool movie, let me go here and figure this out. And I don't think that exists. Like right now, yeah, we have the currently airing major releases, and you'll see them on billboards and TV ads and trailers in the multiplex and trailers on YouTube and trailers that get promoted on YouTube because they pay for that kind of a thing, and it's all marketing and brand momentum. But there's not a underground equivalent of that.
Yeah.
I don't think. Another difference I think between what is going on, Rango is a movie that was made through Viacom, through Paramount. It's an interesting thing because they don't on any consistent basis put out anything animated wise, right? And so Disney Pixar has this like process of continually working and reworking everything in animation. They have a director's meeting where everyone who's making a movie comes in, they screen the movie, and then everyone rips it apart, and then you go back and you throw things away and you start over again. I mean, I think Frozen got restarted 3 or 4 times. Like,
really?
Yeah, it's like they threw away. There's a version of Frozen where Olaf is he wants to be a soldier. There's a version where Olaf is evil. There's a version where Olaf doesn't talk. It's like there's a version where the moose talks, and there's a version where the moose thing doesn't talk. The reindeer, not a moose.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because they spend a lot of money redoing things and churning it. There's like this churn, and but the results they're getting out of that is these movies that are just amazing, right? Like Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen and all the Pixar shit. That their process is a weird dissection of artistic vision and spending a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Or you're doing both. You're spending a lot of money in pursuit of the artist's vision. The artist is the trying to figure things out and working and reworking and asking other artists for help. So, and trying to do some innovation. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but if your shit doesn't work, we'll just throw it away. And if it all doesn't work, we'll just fire you and get someone else to do it.
Yep.
AKA the Good Dinosaur. It's weird. I think so to get back to what he said, we're the Ralph Bakshi's of the world. I think we're going through a process now that will create a second process in the future that will create the next guy like that. Okay. Where you'll get people who will figure out the new tools in a way, and then they will be the ones who can get all the smart, dumb people together and corral them.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like, right
I bent
now,
you back, motherfucker. You didn't think I was going to do it. You didn't think I was going to do it, but I bent you back.
I was teetering on the edge to see if you would bring it back, and I am no longer teetering. Yeah, they have an interesting process of, like, getting a lot of different artists' input on something and kind of making this amalgamous whole. And it's going to be interesting to see when we get, like, the really singular vision, like what Ralph Bakshi had back in the day, like, onto an animated movie, whether it's adult or kids. I think Rango, another reason why I picked it, I think we get close to that. We're getting a very auteur-esque vision onto an animated movie, akin to, it doesn't feel like it's been processed 100 times, like, got a million notes, and it really feels like this is what these guys were trying to do from the start, you know?
Right, totally.
So
I look forward to it, Kev.
Yeah. I'm talking it up. I think it's worthy of it.
This movie came out in 2011. The quotes from 2011 when he's talking about Ralph Bakshi, he's talking about things having to be kids' movies. And I think at the worst animated movies are kids' movies. At their best currently, they're family movies, right? They're kind of in the old-esque of Disney. They're for the whole family. And I think Pixar does this very well. I think Disney's doing it better now. I think when DreamWorks is on, they do it, and when they're off, they don't. They make a kid's movie that only a kid could love.
Yep.
Only someone who thinks that, something with a big butt's funny, etc. And so, a lot's changed since 2011. I think we're starting to reach out to a more adult audience. In 2015, every movie that was number one in the box office from January to April was rated R.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
The first movie that broke that was Fast and the Furious. So that's interesting. 15 years ago, that would not be happening. No. Right?
R rating was, they would work to not get an R rating.
Right. So, but now they're trying, and I think, oddly enough, Bridesmaids really kicked it off where they're like, actually not Bridesmaids.
I think you go all the way back to Wedding Crashers.
Wedding Crashers and then The Hangover, where it's like, okay, now we can make a rated R movie every summer. This past weekend, Trainwreck came out. I think they're catering to that audience more of adults. Yep. We're going. It's the momentum is slowly swinging back where it's like, yeah, we can make rated R movies. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not everything needs to be appropriate for 5-year-olds.
Right.
Or
13-year-olds.
Yeah, or 13-year-olds. But on the flip side, not everything needs to be appropriate for adults either. Sometimes you gotta make kids movies.
Right, and it's just having a balance and there was a really annoying time, in my opinion, back in the a couple of years ago, where it's like all the horror movies were being PG-13. They're just cutting off the balls to these horror movies, and it didn't really make any sense. You know what I mean? I mean, The Gallows that just came out, a found footage teen horror movie is rated R. And that's an interesting change up, because I feel like a couple of years ago, you get nothing wrong with Jeepers Creepers or Final Destination, but those were purposely being made for PG-13. Which, as an adult, it's like, well, I don't want to. Sometimes I want like a little bit more. I want something to cater to me. You know what I mean? So there's always, I think, as movie buffs, there's always that like adult animated movie that you love. You know what I mean? Like, for us, it was like probably Heavy Metal, or if you're a little bit more lowbrow, Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, I was just gonna throw Fritz the Cat out there.
That was Bakshi, right?
Yep, that was Ralph Bakshi.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like on the fringes of internet movie news, they're always talking about, hey, maybe we're gonna redo Heavy Metal and David Fincher's gonna direct it, or maybe we're gonna redo Fire and Ice and Robert Rodriguez is gonna direct it, and we're gonna do like adult animation. And I think it would work because there's like Adult Swim on TV, and I think if you made it clear that this is a movie for adults by adults, it could do it. Is there any live action director that you want to see dip their toe into adult animation?
Well, David Fincher almost did. He was going to make a movie called Goon based on the comic book. And like Paul Giamatti was all set up to be the lead in it. And it's like kind of this like goofy noir, but rated R comic book, and I think the funding just fell through. Mm-hmm. But I think he could have a really interesting vision.
I think about this, a little bit too much. So I made a big list here. So first things first, Tarantino, who always teased doing a Kill Bill anime. I don't know if I need that, but it would be interesting for him to write and direct an adult animated thing.
Yeah.
Maybe even an anime, but I don't know if it needs to be a Kill Bill one specifically. That's already he's kind of done. Yep. Robert Rodriguez, who has always he was attached to Heavy Metal and Fire and Ice at one point. I think Eli Roth. I want to see what Eli Roth would do with an animated movie.
Do something cool.
Rob Zombie made The Haunted World of El Super Beasto as an animated movie. It ended up kind of sucking, and I couldn't recommend that movie to anyone. But I would like to see, if you give him another stab at it, I want to see him do one. George Miller made Mad Max, fucking great adult movies, and then he also made Happy Feet, which were, I'd say, decent kids movies. Right? I don't really have a lot of love in my heart with Happy Feet movies. So let's make a motherfucking George Miller animated movie and let's see what that shit's about. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That'd be cool.
What do you got, George? You've already done it. You've already done it twice. Let's hit the nitrous button and see what happens.
That could be
cool.
Then,
last but not least, the Coen Brothers, because fuck it. Why not? Coen Brothers.
They can do anything. So
right. Yeah, you can do anything, so we might as well exploit that.
Apply it to animation.
Yeah.
You know who else could do something? Or what Paul Thomas Anderson would do with animation.
Mm-hmm.
If we get a 3-hour existential animated movie, that'd be cool.
Could we?
I think we could. We could handle it.
I mean, we kind of got one of those out of the guy who did Boyhood.
Oh, Richard Linklater?
Yeah, he did.
He did 2. He did Waking Life,
which I do not like.
Yeah, it's the. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it now. That animation style is really weird.
The rotoscope?
Yeah. It works better in the second one he did, A Scanner Darkly.
Which I also hate.
All right. I like that movie.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
It's like, it's a cool style. It's an interesting way to apply it. But man, is it hard to look at.
Yeah. Fire. You ever see Fire and Ice?
No.
That's like that, but it's better because it's like orcs and goblins and shit.
Yeah.
Kind of works better in that scenario where it's already kind of fantastical. So it's like, it's not like you're seeing stuff from the world that we live in now. You're seeing stuff from a past world.
Yeah,
I think it kind of works better. Also, I want to add to the list, why not Sam Raimi? Sam Raimi.
Come on. I mean, yeah, Evil Dead 2 is basically a cartoon, so it's why not? Yeah.
Why not?
What do you got, Sam? What have you got?
What do you want to see out of CG animated films that haven't been tried yet?
I think kind of we were talking about more grown-up stories, more experimental stuff. I would like to see maybe like an ensemble piece. If Robert Altman was still alive, what would he do? Like what kind of CG animated movie could he make? Yeah, something that explores newer themes. It's not. I don't want them to all be the Pixar DreamWorks like we're all in this together, we're all a happy family. All gonna be okay.
As almost 30-year-old adults, me and you both like.
We do. I like it, but
that's not the whole that's not what the
I don't want that
medium can offer.
I don't want that to define that whole medium.
Right.
It's like it has to be this, this, this. It's like I want to see an artist really push. Once they can get it and do that material, like I want to see what can they do. Like,
and I think to me and you, we know that, right? We're like, this medium is bigger than what it is currently today. I do think there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, no, animation is kid stuff. You know what I mean?
Animation's always thought of as a genre, not a medium,
right,
to tell a story.
Right. So yeah, and I would like to see some like Adult Swim-esque comedy in that genre. I want to see 3 of my favorite genres, and I think we could all guess them together: sci-fi, fantasy, horror. Those 3 things I think are underrepresented in animation. And those movies, there's some styles of those movies that really depend on effects. So why not put that into a medium that is all effects, right?
Yep.
Like, think about the crazy stories you could tell sci-fi wise with animation.
Just not Final Fantasy the Spirit Within. You can't see it, but he shivered when I said that.
The first, I was really into. I really tracked that movie when it was coming out back in.
I did too.
And I remember the first reviews came in, and the headline was, "The Final Fantasy Spirit is a big anime mess."
And I was like, no way, that can't be possible. And then I saw it, and I was like, yeah, that's possible.
Same thing happened to me. So it's tough when you're on the fringes because you don't know where to go, right? Like if you want to do a kids or a family movie, there's templates for that. There's examples of that. There's things you could study. When you want to go outside of that, if you want to make adult things, if you want to make horror, if you want to make sci-fi fantasy, you get a little bit out into no man's land, and it goes back to that thing where you need the artist, you need the
pioneer with the vision.
Right, we have the innovators that are out now making the technology to do it with, but now you need someone who's like, I'm gonna take this technology and I'm gonna walk out into the unknown and figure it out as I go. You know what I mean? Yeah. You need the explorers.
Oh, I thought of another filmmaker.
Hit me with it.
What would Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu do with CG?
The guy who did Birdman?
Yep.
He would yell at a cloud. Boom! Boom, 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 boom!
All right.
That's my review of Birdman. Old man yells at
a cloud. Partially right.
But you know what? That being said, I'd watch that trailer. Why not?
Yeah. The dude is innovative, whatever you think of the script.
Right. You look at the Revenant.
Revenant.
Upcoming. The aesthetic of that movie, because we haven't seen it, so we can't comment on how good or bad it is, but the aesthetic of that movie is singular. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Nothing else looks like it, and nothing else probably ever has. So, yeah, I'd give him a shot.
Yeah, I think he could really have a vision for an animated film. Let's see what he's got. Also, Guillermo del Toro. That could be cool too.
Yeah, of course. Guillermo del Toro. Just let him do whatever he wants. God damn it. Let him do whatever he wants. God damn it.
Give him his Hellboy 3 money for God's sake.
Let him do Silent Hills. Cancel a video game. Konami, you fucking assholes. All right. So in the very first episode, we were talking Starry Eyes, and I was giving an example about horror movies. And in my passionate defense of the movie, I got on a genre tangent. And I described a Western, which I described in a certain way, and then you were like, well, I don't know about that, and then I said that we'll save it for another day. So today is that other day.
Yes!
This film is a Western, and plays with the conventions of that genre. Something we haven't really talked about here on the Jibber Jabber. What are your thoughts on Westerns and their conventions? Kev, you said you had a film professor who did not agree with my definition of a Western being horses, cowboy hats, 6-shooters, Wild West, trains, guns, wood, etc.
Wells,
Indians,
scurvy.
Not so much scurvy. Some more like drought,
cholera,
cows, etc. So that to me, those are visual things of a Western. How would you define a Western? Or maybe how would your professor define a Western?
And I kind of agree with him. A Western can be applied to any kind of story with like a singular hero that's almost mythic and in a specific setting. It's more than just like those are the basic genre contraptions of it, and that's how it started. But any kind of film that like takes place, he thinks Big Lebowski is a Western. Mm-hmm. Like film noir is kind of born out of the Western, like the singular hero who is in a corrupt world and has to solve something. Like that's what a Western is. you know.
How would the Magnificent Seven fit into that?
Yeah, I mean that's
But there's 7 of them, but they're the
That's
singular
true.
unit.
All right. Yeah, they're a singular unit. You know, and Magnificent Seven is just a remake of Seven Samurai, but those are also, you know, westerns took their cues from Japanese samurai films as
Right.
well. So, you know, it's western is a little bigger than just horses and cowboy hats and 6-shooters. I think the idea of it is bigger.
I'd say that the idea of it is bigger, but at a minimum, that's what you need for the genre. You know what I mean? I think The Big Lebowski is maybe, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
To me, that's a noir.
Right.
But even noirs are born out of westerns.
Sure. I mean, I'm all for, you know, things connecting in that way, and I'm all for, like, an unusual Western, you know what I mean? But I think...
Like El Topo.
Right. But I think if I say, hey, this thing's a Western, and it didn't have some arid places and some wilderness and some cowboys and some horses, I think you'd be like, what the fuck's going on here?
Okay.
You know what I mean? But, you know, these things are not set in stone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked about a lot in my class, but it's just a much bigger, broader genre, and it's been a template for so many things that you have to tie it back to where it came from,
Right.
In a way,
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything is connected, right? It's like you could draw. It goes from samurai movies that influence westerns that influence film noir influence mystery influences horror. So it's like, you know, it's this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon that, you know, goes 100 years. You know what I mean? It's a strange thing, but it is what it is. So, I mean, you know, this conversation, we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about technical innovation. We've talked about
Fringe animation.
Making things outside of the mainstream, budgets. You know, Rango opens up a big world, but I think we should finish it off with a little either or, then follow it up with a little what this movie, get out of here, go watch Rango, come back, talk about it.
Great.
Okay, so we're going to do a little either or. For anyone who is not familiar with what we do here, either or question, Coke and Pepsi, no right answer. Comparing some topics here.
What do you prefer?
What do you like? Getting to know what, you know, who do you trust? Do you trust me? Just Kev. Trust both of us? Just neither.
You trust me.
So here's a litmus test. All right, so we'll start off. Cowboy or samurai?
Samurai.
I will also go with samurai. Surf's Up or Happy Feet?
You know, I never saw either one, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
Never saw it.
I saw both. And 1,000,000,000,000% Surf's Up.
All right.
That movie is criminally underrated and is great.
I'll check it out.
Check it out. Marion Robert Morrison or John Wayne?
Oh, John Wayne. He can't, you know. He's iconic.
Do you get what I'm doing here?
No, actually I don't.
That's his real name.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Marion Morrison is not a cool cowboy name.
Marion Robert Morrison.
Yep.
Going on the range.
I also say John Wayne because I think that's a better persona. Cowboys or aliens?
Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Personally.
I'm gonna say Cowboys as well. Who versus Billy the Kid versus Dracula? Who wins?
Billy the Kid, I think.
I think Dracula smokes Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid was a good shot.
Yeah,
Just give him a silver bullet. Silver bullet's killed. Yeah.
A lot of places to hide in the good old Wild West.
Sure.
That was, by the way, a horror western that exists.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Shanghai Noon or Shanghai Night?
I thought Shanghai Noon was actually a pretty funny
You know what? Fucking goddamn you, Kevin. I agree. Shanghai Noon is a fun movie.
It's a fun little movie.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like, you know, it's rush hour in the Wild West, but there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's no Chris Tucker to make everything annoying.
But you know, I will also defend Chris Tucker in the first Rush Hour movie.
All right.
But I do concede to your point. But you also have Owen Wilson, so you gotta if you love Owen Wilson, and my girlfriend loves her some Owen Wilson, then fucking it's blue skies.
Yep.
Kind of falls apart with Shanghai Nights. It happens.
A little bit.
Man from Snowy River or Wiggly Down Under?
I've not seen either one.
I'm gonna go Man from Snowy River. These are Australian westerns.
There's I've heard about they call it the Ozploitation movement. It's a lot of really gritty stuff coming out of Australia. I'm gonna dig into that genre some more.
I will go ahead and say neither of these movies are very gritty, but Man from Snowy River is a pretty good western.
All right, check it out.
There's a scene where he rides his horse down a very sheer cliff, like a very vertical cliff, and it's pretty cool.
There is one Australian western that you all need to watch. It's called The Proposition. It's a fantastic film.
Interesting.
It's directed by John Hillcoat, written by Nick Cave of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Oh, really?
Starring Guy Pearce, Ray Winstone. It's a fantastic...
What was it called?
The Proposition. Fantastic Western that takes place in Australia.
I'll add it to our list.
Great.
For a second, I thought you were going to say Australia. No, Kev.
I thought I was going to pull out some Baz Luhrmann epic. Come on.
Yeah. It's like, listen, we got a horror western, we got kung fu westerns, we got Aussie westerns. I'm not going to do that Aussie western. All right? We got three other options here. Blazing Saddles or Three Amigos?
Blazing Saddles all day.
I'm going to say Three Amigos just to
Just to fuck with me, right?
well, just, because I prefer it.
You
But
bastard.
those are that's a parody western.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go Magnificent Seven or Seven Samurai?
Seven Samurai.
I'm going to go Magnificent Seven. Dr. Quinn or Annie Oakley?
Oh, Dr. Quinn.
Yeah, Dr. Quinn.
Just,
Medicine Woman.
dude, all day.
Wild Wild West or Jonah Hex?
I like the idea of Jonah Hex better, even though that movie was horribly executed.
I'd say that movie is also horribly executed, but it's less horribly executed than
The
Wild Wild West.
West.
Tombstone or Wyatt Earp?
Tombstone.
Tombstone, indeed. Desperado or El Mariachi?
Ooh, Desperado.
I'm going to say El Mariachi, but I respect you with Desperado.
Hey, they made El Mariachi for what, $7,000?
It's 5 to 7, I think. Yeah, 7,000.
That's pretty impressive. Also, Once Upon a Time in Mexico has some moments. Could have been great.
Could have been great.
It's not.
It's not. 310 to Yuma or Appaloosa?
They're both terrible. I hate them all. Kick me in the balls right now before I have to watch either one of those fucking things.
I will say that Appaloosa is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, that movie, it's worse than 310 to Yuma.
Yeah, so I'm going to say 310 to Yuma. And I would say I appreciate 310 to Yuma was trying to do. It's a little existential. Appaloosa is just like, nothing happens.
Yeah, literally, it's... Why?
Yeah.
You gave Viggo Mortensen a shotgun and nothing happens? Fuck you, Ed Harris.
Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. What's going on here? Back to the Future 3 or Tremors 4?
Ooh, Back to the Future 3.
Tremors 4, bro. They're
know.
dealing with worm monsters in the Wild West. What else do you need?
It's funny. I guess if it had been made in the 80s, I think it would have been better overall.
El Topo or Brokeback Mountain?
El Topo.
Yeah, I'm going to go El Topo too.
Wild and weird.
Just, nothing against Brokeback Mountain, but just El Topo, you know what I mean? Like they might make another movie like Brokeback Mountain. They'll never make another movie like
El Topo.
And for good reason. And for good reason. So we're gonna play one more game here. It's What This Movie. The theme of this one is non-Pixar DreamWorks animation westerns and Desert Critters edition.
Inspired by the fact that the cast of Rango is made up of entirely desert critters.
And it's a non-Pixar movie.
It's not a Pixar movie.
So and it's a western.
Yep.
All right. So now that everyone's caught up, Watership Down.
Traumatizing Bunnies, yes.
Never seen it. Don't even know what it
It's
is.
intense. Oh, you should check it out.
What is it?
It's based on a children's book. It's an animated film, I believe it was made in Britain, but it was known for having extremely violent scenes and people being traumatized by it. You should check it out.
Gonna add it to our animation.
Recently released on Criterion Collection and Blu-ray. Check it out. I believe John Hurt does a voice in it and has a British cast. So
Interesting.
yeah, check it out.
The Man with No Name trilogy. When these are a fistful of dollars.
For a few dollars more in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I've only ever seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
That's the only one you need to see.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's the best.
I
easily.
feel like it was a little bit long.
And I like that it was long. It's an epic. It's a big story. So
Interesting.
I think that one is beyond the other two by a long margin.
Fair enough. True Grit. Is this old True Grit or new True Grit?
You can do both. I think the Coen brothers improved on John Wayne, though.
I'm gonna say that True Grit is on paper is a real bad idea, right? Coen Brothers remaking a John Wayne western, but that being said, enjoyed the fuck out of that movie. Thought it was a great western. Proof that Appaloosa was a dud.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got Critter here, Diamondback Rattlesnake.
That's a great snake. I like him.
I'm gonna say no because I don't want to die.
Yeah, they're pretty to look at, though.
Fair enough.
Go to the zoo.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Fantastic.
Agreed. Really great movie.
If Wes Anderson had not made that movie, he would have been top of my list of guys that need to make an animated
That's
movie.
it. Exactly. That's why we did that list, and you can't put Wes Anderson on it because he already made a good one.
He made a great one out of Fantastic.
And
It's fun.
an adult movie.
Yeah, But I think kids can like it.
Kids can like it, but it's a Wes Anderson.
like weird arty kids that grow up in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
that's what they would watch besides Little Mermaid.
Or
But,
who either grew up in Brooklyn or wish they did.
yep, exactly. So,
Coraline.
yes, I think it's not perfect, but it's a good start to Laika's style.
I never saw Coraline, but I want to, so I'm gonna say yes. I think that qualifies as yes.
That's a yes.
If I want to see something.
Yeah.
The Box Trolls.
I think the culmination of what Laika started is a great little film. Can't wait to see what they have coming up next. I think they have some kind of samurai adventure.
Oh,
as
that sounds
their
good.
next thing.
This is one of those movies where I don't want to see it, but I respect them for doing it.
You should watch it.
Maybe I should.
It's funny. I have it. It's on Netflix as well. Check it out.
We'll check it out. An armadillo.
They're cute little critters.
They're pretty cute. They seem to get a bum rap, right? Like no one really talks about armadillos.
They call them road lobsters in the South.
Why?
I really guess they're like little guys in shells that they like run on the side of the road like we would see a squirrel.
Oh, interesting. It's a Texas squirrel.
Yep.
Unforgiven.
Yeah. Clint Eastwood's last good movie that he directed.
Shit. I've never seen Unforgiven, and there's no good reason why that is. I've also never
very well
seen
made.
Once Upon a Time in the West.
Very good. Last great Sergio Leone movie, I would say. Currently playing at the New Beverly.
What? I thought Good and Bad Ugly was playing there.
Is that what they were doing?
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in the West might be coming up. But, yeah. Tarantino loves those Sergio Leone films. We're going to research right now.
So, for anyone who's listening to this, it's already too late.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Son of a bastard.
But it's all, it ended on the 4th.
Ah,
I
fuck.
don't know. What are they playing?
Oh, Good and Bad Ugly is now.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Son of a bitch.
All right.
Bobcats. Critter, not a movie.
Yeah. There might be a movie called Bobcats. But
There probably is.
the critter itself, they're assholes. They tear up gardens and kill dogs. Fuck them.
I've never seen one, so I got nothing against it. What is this word?
Javelina.
What is
That
that?
is a boar that lives in
Like a pig?
like a big pig. They're nasty motherfuckers.
I do like the idea of a nasty motherfucking pig. Let me take a little Google here.
Pull a picture of a javelina.
Also known as a pecanary?
Peccary? I've never heard of that.
It sounds like a racist term. I don't like it.
There's a javelina.
Whoa. A big fat body with little tiny legs. Good, big fan of that. Also, attack, huh?
Yeah, they're nasty. Like, I think the male ones get tusks, and they're really...
They're little sons of bitches?
Yeah, they can mess you up.
Oh, look at those teeth. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
We're going to watch some attacks of this later. After this.
Also noted in the Royal Tenenbaums, that's what Royal's headpiece that he was looking for. It's a javelina. He says, Pagoda, where's my javelina? So there you go.
Interesting. The Proposition, you've already put that over. We haven't seen it, so we'll just kind of move.
Fantastic.
Well, put it on the to-do list. Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings films.
Those movies are weird as fuck. No.
I'm going to say pass.
Yeah, they're strange.
Rankin and Bass, The Hobbit.
That movie has not held up at all. I watched it recently. The DVD menu looks like it was made in like Windows Paint. It's terrible. And the movie itself is just very strange. But that's where South Park's got the Lemmy song from, was that movie. So there you go.
I'm going to say hard pass. Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Back to Creatures, Chameleons.
I like chameleons. Cute little guys.
Yeah, seen them. They're cool. They're down.
Yeah.
The Last Unicorn.
Very strange movie. It's my girlfriend's favorite movie, though.
My girlfriend favorite movie as well.
There you go.
Holy shit. Maybe we should do that on the episode and bring them on.
Potentially.
And maybe that's a bad idea. Back to Critters, Desert Tortoise.
Tortoises. I like tortoises. They're fun.
Hey man, if you're a amphibious looking kind of thing and you're making it in the desert, more power to you.
Good on you.
Yeah. Red Dead Redemption, which is a video game, but not, but still worth talking to.
Yeah, it's, I think, one of the best Western pieces of art ever made in any medium. I think Red Dead Redemption is absolutely brilliant.
So I borrowed your copy and I started playing it, and the first mission is like taking care of a ranch.
You gotta do the stuff first.
It's a bad way to start, bro.
you-
When I start a game, listen, and this I may be fueling the fire for some douchebags out there, but when I start a game with some guns, the first level, I want to be shooting them guns.
All right.
I'm just saying.
You gotta tend to the cows first. Red Dead Redemption is great. Buy it.
All right. That's fair. I also want to play the Undead Pack where you're going to fight zombies.
Oh, yeah. That starts you out on guns. So that's all kinds of fun. So
Can you start just... Is that a separate game?
yeah, it's an expansion pack.
But is it like the missions you have to like...
No, it's a completely separate like adventure from the main quest.
Should I just start with that?
You could. You get a little more background. Like, you interact with characters you meet in Red Dead Redemption, so you get a little more background if you actually play the main game, but it is fun on its own. So,
Interesting.
there you go.
Persepolis.
It's a good little film. Yeah, it's a French-Iranian co-production. It's a good film.
Never saw it.
Worth watching.
I have heard the same, so...
Yeah, check it out.
Shame on me for not having seen it.
You know, an interesting animated story. It's, you know, a girl really growing up and going into womanhood.
Yeah, I did read the comic book, though.
Yeah, it's based on the comic.
Yeah, I read that comic book. I just never saw the movie.
Check it out.
Scanner Darkly.
I touched on it a little bit. That movie it's pretty weird, but I like it.
I'm going to say that movie's whack. Waking Life.
We again talked about that the animation has eye scarring in it, and I couldn't finish it. So
Double whack.
Yep.
Blazing Saddles.
Great film.
Yeah.
Timeless parody.
Classic. Horned Frogs.
I like
Again, not a movie.
It's a critter. I like little horned frogs. They're unique. You don't see a frog with horns on it. You know, you just don't.
I have never seen a frog with a horn on it. Is this what I'm looking at here?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm down for this. I'm down.
Oh yeah, that's more what they look
Right
like.
here?
Yeah, they're kind of spiky little
look at
dudes.
this thing.
That's a
Holy shit.
toad.
I'm down. Why not?
Yeah.
Live your life, buddy. Live your life. Fritz the cat.
Very strange. No, ultimately.
I'm gonna say no as well. Scorpions. The band, no love. The creature, a little bit more love.
I think it's about the coolest creature, but also about the scariest creature. I would not want to run into one.
Yeah,
the wild.
it's cool they exist, but like not near me, bro.
Yep.
Not near me. The Searchers.
I wasn't a big fan of it, but I need to rewatch it.
Never saw it. Waltz and Bashir.
Waltz with Bashir.
Waltz with Bashir. Waltz versus Bashir.
Waltz versus Bashir and Mecha Godzilla. Animated film out of Israel. I was interested in it, did not ultimately see it, so it's on my list.
The Iron Giant.
Still an underrated classic to this day, I think.
I saw some of it. I was not blown away, but watching half of it on Cartoon Network is not the best way to get a sense of something.
Yeah, you gotta sit and watch it.
Speaking of, you gotta sit and watch it, El Topo.
Take some libations before you watch El Topo.
Or like, just, don't try not to think about your own mortality.
Yep.
Desert Owls.
I like desert owls. I like all owls. Owls are probably my favorite animal.
But that's mostly because you hate mice, right?
No, I like mice.
Right.
I had a pet rat growing up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Crisco.
Is he fat?
It was part of a class project, and he was the fattest one starting out. She was the fattest one starting out, so named her Crisco. But I did also like owls. So yeah.
Interesting. All right, so that wraps up our Critters non-DreamWorks Western animated game of what this movie? Is there any other things you'd like to add before we start here, Kev?
I'm excited to talk about Rango. I think this is a really...
You've been chomping at the bit for Rango.
I'm salivating to talk Rango because
Okay.
I think this is a really exciting, different animated film. The fact they got away with it is a miracle. The fact that it turned out good is another one. So I'm excited to Jibber Jabber.
Double rainbows.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think your excitement of it has gotten me excited about it. So I'm coming into this thing with an open heart. So we'll see what happens.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
And we're back. Rango started off. Kev, where and when and how did you watch this movie?
So for this viewing, I watched my Blu-ray copy at my house. I did see this in theaters the weekend it came out, and that's when I fell in love with Rango.
And I assume you've watched it in the interim as well.
Oh yeah. I bought the Blu-ray. I've watched it a few times, shown it to a few friends, and
Okay, so you've seen this movie a handful of times.
very familiar with Rango.
Yeah, I've watched it with the commentary on.
I have not watched it with the commentary, but I've watched all the behind-the-scenes stuff and all that.
Yeah. Cool. I watched this movie last night, which was Friday, July 31st. Give a little timetable there. I watched it on the DVD from your Blu-ray DVD combo set.
Yep.
Borrowed that. That's how I watched it.
Yep. And keep an eye on Netflix, as we talked about. It has been streaming on there in the past. Could come back. We'll see.
All right. So just to anyone, just a quick little refresher here. The plot of Rango revolves around Rango, a pet chameleon with a penchant for staging his own absurdist solo plays in his holding tank. When a car accident leaves him stranded in the desert, he comes across the town of Dirt. Dirt is a western town inhabited by a myriad of desert creatures and a suspicious water crisis that leaves him in a desperate need for a hero. Rango decides to put his natural charisma to the test, becomes sheriff, and sets off to solve the mystery of the missing water. It's kind of a redundant question at this point, but what do you think about this movie?
So, what I think separates this movie from a lot of animated film, from a lot of movies in general, it has its own kind of weird little verve and vibe. It's really well shot for an animated movie, shot kind of in quotes. Like, Roger Deakins was like a consultant on it. So it's filmed like a movie.
Who's Roger Deakins?
The great cinematographer who did Skyfall, Coen Brothers films, just got signed on for Blade Runner 2, Assassination of Jesse James. He's done a lot of films. So, legendary cinematographer. Never won an Oscar, but been nominated like 12 times.
So he's not legitimate, is what you're saying.
Oh. So mean.
Fuck you!
Hey. Yeah, he was like the DP consultant, and you can tell it's like uniquely shot for an animated film. I love all the characters. They all have great detail. I think it just makes this really good, unique package, and it's all a Western, and it's just, that's why I really latch on to this movie.
I will first concede to your point that it is a Western.
Yeah.
First things first. Let's get that. In case anyone was like, I don't know if it's a Western. It is a Western.
It's a Western.
Okay. So to start, right, so you started this movie, and it starts with this very long scene of introspective acting, where he's pretending like he's an actor, and he's interacting with, like, the toys in his tank and his dead cockroach or dead cricket or whatever. Then he gets, tossed out of the car, and he meets a roadkill, and he starts talking to the roadkill, and they're talking about all this philosophy and stuff, and I'm like, what is going on? And we get to this western town where all these strange creatures, and they're living in the town is made out of like cardboard boxes and things. It's like, as if
the bar is a gasoline can.
Yeah.
The shitter is a bowl is Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah.
A Spanish bottle of Pepto-Bismol.
Indeed. And and I thought it definitely was like, this is just bizarro to the max, but in a good way. And it's a very funny movie. It keeps itself, I think, grounded by being funny. And then by the time we get to the search, when they're trying to solve the water, I'm like, okay, this is the movie. It's becoming the movie I want it to become. And then by the time we meet Clint Eastwood, I'm like, all right, totally in. You know what I mean? Like I was in before that moment, but by the time we get to Clint Eastwood, it's like, okay, so we're gonna finish strong here. So overall, I do like this movie. It is a very unique movie that does not really fit in to the current paradigm of family movies. It's very strange. There's lots of existential talk about death. It's like a kid's movie that doesn't really give a fuck. It's like a kid's movie. It's like when you're a kid and you're looking for something that's like weird. You're like, I want to see what's on the edges. Yeah. This would be like the first thing on the edge, right? Where it's not like there's not like tasteful side boob in this movie. It's not that crazy. Although there is a frog with some huge cleavage, which it was just like,
there's some toad titties.
Yeah, it was like, okay, and it's very but there is surreal stuff in here. As the movie goes on, it gets weirder and weirder, but then at the same time, it pays off that weirdness, which I think is what separates it from something that is rudderless. Right, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, it's not just constant weird to be weird. It's tied into the story and the design and how the world it creates.
Right, but it does get less in. I mean, it's talking fucking animals, so let's start there. But it does get more and more away from the concept that these are normal creatures. Like in the first third of the movie, up until we get to Dirt, right? You're like, okay, he's just talking. It's just a talking creature, and then it's like now there's a little town that has its own economy, and it's like, okay, wait, are we? But we know that there's humans in this world. It just gets very strange.
Yeah, humans. It has an interesting. They're always on the fringe, like
Yes.
they're way out. Like we never see. The only humans we ever see, we see the Hunter S. Thompson stand-in.
Yes, which by the way, great cameos in this movie.
Yep.
You got the man with no name that looks like Clint Eastwood,
The Spirit of the West.
Spirit of the West that is played by Timothy Oliphant.
Yep.
And then you got the guys from Fear and Loathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Rango's Hawaiian shirt is that shirt too, right? It's one of the shirts from Fear and Loathing, isn't it?
I mean, he wears Hawaiian shirts and that, but I wouldn't say it's a specific.
Okay, that's fair. But that specific
but-
reference is made.
Yeah, but in terms of humans, like that's kind of all we see, you know. And it's like the human world is very much on the fringe, so it's this world's very self-contained, and
We're supposed to
it's
believe
it's not like a Bug's Life or Toy Story or or Ants, where humans are like this big factor that they have to deal with. It's they live in the human world, but that's not part of the conflict.
right. And their world mirrors the human world.
Yeah.
Because they're going through the taming of the West, essentially. That's essentially the story, right? Going from uncivilized frontier to civilized frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, how that shift squeezes a lot of people out. As, you know, the turtle is the evil landowner and a fucking gopher is like the banker. You know, it's a fucking movie here. But
It is talking animals, ultimately.
so I want to start big and maybe we can work our way to small. So we'll start with the theme, right? And I think the way I interpret it is the theme of this. There's two themes. Okay, so it's a very bizarro, surreal world, and getting into that world, you know, you're given little pieces at a time. So that's handled that way. But I think the themes of this movie are very simple, which is a good contrast,
Yep.
right? And I think some movies that are overly simple maybe would benefit from a more bizarro world that we can like offset that with, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
A simpler world with a more complex theme. But complex world, simple theme. One of them is hope. Everyone keeps talking about hope and how it's tied to the water, and it's in.
And then how it later comes tied to Rango.
Right.
They have the little speech in the fire where Spoons gives it, the little bearded mouse.
Yeah.
And he says, like...
There's a lot of beards in this fucking movie.
It's the West.
It's the West. So they give a cat a beard, they give a bird a beard, they give lots of people beards.
Spoons is basically a walking beard.
Yeah,
He's like this,
he's a big furry mouse.
But yeah, he talks about, you know, they, for a long time, just only the water was hope, but when Rango comes in and demonstrates his bravery, misplaced or not, he said, you know, that he gives us hope, you
Right.
know, and it's, very much alike. We're always fighting for something. So
We have this romantic notion of the West, and I think it comes in part from Westerns and part from Manifest Destiny and all these other things in history and culture. But when you think about the West, right, it's like, and you think about the founding of America, it's like, who would leave the comfort of civilization to go somewhere where there is no civilization, right? And this, you got to think in context, right? It's like you're literally going to places that like no one knows anything about. So when you go there, anything can happen to you. So it's like it's only a certain kind of rough and tumble person who's either down on their luck or is a criminal or has issues or whatever who would want to leave the comfort, the relative comfort of a city and go out to literally nothing, to the desert, right? So in that context, you have these people who need water, and water is controlled by this turtle who is the landowner and the mayor, and he controls the hope. So he is able to subjugate these people basically to his whim in the context of being a mayor by controlling their water. So he controls their hope. So he controls them.
kind of like Immortan Joe.
Kind of like Immortan Joe. And I mean, kind of like in life, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you have money or power or resources, you can control people. Mm-hmm. But they have to have hope. So these people, they all hope for the water, and they want to make something of themselves, and they have hope. Using the word hope a million times. Can't think of a synonym for hope.
They use it a lot in the movie too.
So power is based on hope. The turtle controls the water and rations it, blah, blah, blah. So, but if you destroy hope, then you stand to lose everything. Because if people don't have hope, what stops them from just rearranging the whole system? The system is predicated on people having hope, right? Like, you look at, like, impoverished people, they have, like, religion, and they have things to believe in, the idea that things will get better, or they can pull themselves out of it through, education or artistry or whatever. If you take that away, then they literally have nothing, and then you stand to lose everything. And I think that happens in this movie where the guy thinks he could just take everything away from Rango, take everything away from the city, and just do whatever he wants to. And that is wrong, because if you take away these people, they have nothing left to live for. Why wouldn't they rebel? And exactly. I think that, having hope and not abusing your control over it is a theme on that. And in the end, spoiler alert, the turtle is taken off by a gigantic snake.
Yep.
To, what we can only assume is his untimely death.
I would imagine. And yeah, to piggyback on that, yeah, he has the water as hope, but he needs to start diverting the water. So when Rango stumbles into his life, he says, Rango's he's going to be the new hope that I'm going to give these people and dangle in front of him. Because Rango has only showed that he's kind of incompetent at this point. Mm-hmm. He sort of rides on luck. Mm-hmm. He has some skill. He's not dumb. But, he knows he has that one bullet, and he knows he shoots when the hawk is chasing him, we'll get into that, shoots the licorice rope. And, he gets by on a lot of blind luck. But the mayor turtle, underestimates how he's going to grow and how he's going to change and how he's really going to inspire all the animals of dirt. And it ends up backfiring on the turtle by making Rango, pumping him up to be this hero. And he really does save dirt and gets in their water and gets the turtle out of there.
Yeah. And then the other theme is do the right thing, right? You know what's right and you have to stand up for what's right, which is tied into the whole hope thing. And I think the line that gets repeated the most in this movie is, no man can walk out of his own story.
Well, they say story a lot in this, almost as much as they say hope a lot. They talk about story constantly. Rango is an actor who's scolding his toys because they're not telling the story the right way. It's you're wooden. There, I said it. You're wooden, and he's. When he comes into dirt, he doesn't just say, I'm a chameleon who fell off a car. He, comes up with this whole story, and, we
don't even know his real name, because he gets the name Rango from
the cactus juice.
Right.
So, and he goes into the bar, and to impress these rough-looking critters, he tells the story about killing the Jenkins brothers with one bullet. This movie's constantly telling it's about story.
Was that a reference to something?
Nah, I don't think so. Not overt. So. But yeah, it's and he learns there's more to a story than just telling a tall tale. A story has a beginning, middle, and end, and I think he learns what his end can be. It's he really can be the hero he's supposed to be.
Also, according to IMDb, Johnny Depp plays Rango/Lars. Is Lars Rango's name, or is Lars?
Oh, Lars is the. I think he's the Hunter S. Thompson stand-in. Yeah, but yeah, Rango's true name, whatever his handler's name, is never revealed. So yeah, again, he adopts this persona of Rango.
Yes. Also, you're right. That is the character from Fear and Loathing.
Yep.
Yeah. So he adopts his persona, and then he can't walk out. He has to finish what he started, which ties into helping the town, which ties into being the person that you want to become, the spirit of the West influencing you to read. And that's the story of the West, right? It's it's people starting over. So you could become whoever you want. You become an outlaw, or you could become a hero. So it's a good milieu to tell a story of someone reinventing themselves. And he's an actor, and actors reinvent themselves a lot of time, but you're playing these roles. Who do you actually want to be, right? That's what the movie's really about, right? It's he's a person who likes the idea of being different people, but it's when it comes down to picking one, who do you want to be? And it's not himself. He wants to be Rango.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a really strong theme to explore in an animated movie full of critters. It's the guy who thinks he can kind of fake his way through life is presented with super dire stakes and comes out the other side as a true hero. And yeah, playing into that idea of you can't walk out of your own story. Finish what you did, do the right thing, be the best you can be. Don't just fuck around. Which up until that point, he was pretty much doing, because he just staging little solo plays.
A little surreal, yelling at his, like you said, yelling at a wooden palm tree for acting too wooden.
Yeah.
It's
And his
Whoa.
little wind-up fish, who he's like, "Oh, you were good," and that thing is not moving. And the dead cricket is, it's just lots of good stuff.
Right. So, on this, like, you know, a very bizarro first scene. Do you think the movie gets more surreal as it goes along, or do you think it's a surreal kind of experience? Like, you want to?
I think it has surreal moments. I don't think it's overall surreal. It's not like El Topo, which they said was a big inspiration on it, but that's like a very surreal Western. This one has kind of, whatever Rango's going on, kind of a personal journey. He has sort of these surreal dreams and visions, and that it's sort of personifying what's going on in his head, and we just see it. Yeah.
Well, okay, so the movie begins and he meets a armadillo that's literally flattened in the middle.
Yep.
Right? And he's, one would assume, on his deathbed. But he's talking about getting to the other side and finding, you know, meaning and whatever. And then later we meet up with that character again, and Rango's alone with him, and now he's wearing a poncho, so you can't see if he's fucked up or not, and he has a walking stick. And then later again, when we reveal that we're adjacent to Las Vegas, and the water comes from a water main that waters a golf course, and then Rango is interacting with these walking plants that seek out water, and the climax of the movie is the plants on the armadillo's orders turn the water back on, and then town gets flooded with fresh water.
And yeah, that's the water. The ultimate scheme of the turtle is he diverts that water that would have normally gone to dirt to this little city that he's building.
So they are that is animals building a city just a couple of miles away from dirt.
Yep.
And he's diverting dirt to water to facilitate that. Okay. Because when they showed it there's a weird thing that they do, and the paint. I was listening to a podcast of Peyton Reed where he was talking about Ant-Man, and he's like, medium shots don't work in Ant-Man. You have to either do far away ones or close-ups to get the scale. You know what I mean? And in Rango,
this movie proves that wrong.
Well, but in Rango, sometimes I think in that one scene, and of course I only saw this movie once, so maybe but in that one scene, I'm like, I can't tell if this is human doing construction or animals doing construction. In that one medium shot of construction.
Well, you can tell there's like the javelinas that have been pulling their carriages for the whole movie are pulling like construction equipment.
Okay.
And you did watch the DVD; it wasn't in high def.
It was not, but it did look fucking great.
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll
get into that in a minute
later. But
we're talking about surrealism right now. So so are we supposed to believe that the armadillo is like segmented, basically?
I don't think so. I'm thinking when he gets him up, then he's kind of full again. In the first scene, but yeah, you did mention he has a poncho on. I guess maybe I don't know if I ever realized that or not. So
then on his way to dirt, he's walking to dirt. We're gonna have to move on from this armadillo. I don't think there's an answer. He's walking to dirt and he encounters a bullfrog that's like kind of hiding from the hawk, and the hawk chases him and he gets in a bottle and all this stuff. And then we revisit the hawk later when he's in dirt and he's been talking up how great he is. And now the hawk has a metal beak.
Well, it has it from the beginning.
Does it?
Yeah. The hawk has a metal beak.
Because I did not see that in the first scene when we meet the hawk.
He does have it.
Why does he have a metal? I mean, I guess because it's so in the Western theme.
I just think that's.
Are you sure?
I'm like 99% sure he has a metal.
We're gonna believe you on this.
All right.
But
if he didn't, what was the point you were gonna make?
Yeah, well, that is my point. Is if he didn't, what is the point?
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I think he's always had it. I think that's just a way to, and this ties into the character design, which is another thing we want to talk about. There's so many good little details that make them way more interesting than just this guy's a snake, this guy's a gopher, this guy's a bullfrog, this guy's a hawk. The hawk has this. It's not just a metal beak; it's engraved.
Yes,
like Western design.
Yeah, it's a little flourish on there.
Yeah, that's. There's a mole with a club foot. There's this really well dressed owl. There's
a chicken with
an arrow through his head.
That's grisly, bro. That's a grisly image.
Rattlesnake Jake. I just noticed in this last viewing, he has barbed wire on his hat.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, his hat is like rimmed with barbed wire.
Also, speaking of Rattlesnake Snake and surrealism, he instead of a rattler, he has a Gatling gun for a tail.
Uh-huh. He's done that many arms.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, now we're getting into biomechanical shit. You know what I mean? It just gets The movie is just not afraid to get weirder and weirder.
Yeah, it's and yeah, I think that really helps give this world some life. You know, just really, I feel like, and they talk about this in the behind the scenes. They wanted to feel like any one of these characters could have their own movie. You know, they have enough detail and enough like character quirks and ticks that they could all kind of lead their own story. And again, tying back to the theme, you never walk out of your own story.
Right. I mean, they build up to I think that's true. I think a lot of these characters, like Rattlesnake Jake, when he comes in, he's touted as this villain, and he comes in and it's kind of dusk, and his eyes are like fire, and he has this really cool character design. I like how much bigger he's like huge compared to the rest of them.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about. I feel like in a lot of animated movies, just divert really quick. Characters are all kind of the same size for the most part. This movie really plays with proportions in a cool way. Like the armadillo is way bigger than Rango, and so like when Rango has to climb on him and help him out of the road, that moment always caught me by surprise. Where it's like, oh, Rango, he's so small
compared to this guy. Yeah.
Compared to this guy, and then the hawk is really big. But Rattlesnake Jake is like huge and like dwarfs everybody. But yeah, it's just all these different shapes and sizes, and these characters, they're not just like cosmetically different, they're very proportionally just big and small and medium, and it's just, I think that gives us a really cool dynamic that you don't see.
Indeed. And going back to Rattlesnake Jake, there's a line where he's choking Beans to death, and she goes, "Go to hell," and he says, "Where do you think I come from?"
Yep.
He's a cold motherfucker.
He is. He hears all the rumors. Rango's talking about, oh, he's my brother.
I'm immune to his venom.
I put his venom in my coffee, And Rattlesnake Jake comes in and immediately confronts him. He's like, "Hello, brother." Yeah. And then he fills a shot glass with his venom. Yeah. When he's like, "You got killer in your eyes." And, Bill Nighy, just great.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Mission Impossible 5 podcast. Alec Baldwin, Ian McShane, Bill Nighy in every single movie.
Yeah. Would this movie be better with those three?
Yes. Especially Ian McShane. Played one of the great Western roles of all time.
Who do you play?
As Al Swearingen on the show Deadwood.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's... How do we get into Rattlesnake Jake?
We're talking about how surreal everything is and how he has a Gatling gun thing, and then it just turned into me, to recap this, it just turned into me gushing about how cool he is.
Yeah. And they based his design on Lee Van Cleef from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you look really closely, he has a pencil thin scale
Yes, he has a
mustache.
pencil.
Just like Lee Van Cleef.
I'm so glad you said that.
Looking for Bill Carson.
Yes.
And he's got the hat and these eyes that look like pits to hell.
Rango defeats him and gets a drop on him, and he has one bullet in his gun. He has him dead to rights. And then the bad guys have Beans captured, and Rango kind of has to back off. There's a look on his face that telegraphs like respect, fear, and respect. And in the end of the movie, he's like from one legend to another, like.
Yeah, I tip my hat.
But it's like, damn, like that's a bold choice to make like your most over villain, and then you turn him babyface right at the end. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's very all these.
To quote a professional wrestling term, he's a very cool heel. Yeah, he's like the cool bad guy.
He's Rowdy Roddy Piper. Rest in peace.
They live amazing. Go ahead.
Let's see.
And you got any other topics you want to talk about?
Sold my notes here real quick. We talked about creature proportion. The story themes being something that I feel has never really been explored this way in animation before. And again, really why I latch on to this movie and think it's... I love all the weird, funny lines in this movie.
A lot of throwaway, just like,
A few of my favorites. The air was moist with apprehension.
I like that one.
Spoon's confronting Rango, and he says... "What's the matter? You missing your mama's mangoes?" That's a great line. Let's see. I've got a few others here. Spirit of the West saying, "If this was heaven, we'd be eating Pop-Tarts with Kim Novak." It's like, who comes up with that?
When Rango's pooing himself and talking shit, he's like, a lot of aces in that deck. I like that.
Yeah, that's great. Waffles going... He's like, "Oh, it's like a puzzle. It's like a big mammogram." It's like just weird little asides, but just give this movie so much character and life, you know. And Balthazar the mole, when he says, "I think they thespians," he goes, "Thespians? That's legal in 7 states."
Yeah,
God, that's funny.
Yeah, put it in a gay joke in 2011. It was just very strange. I do, and also I wrote that down. Night moist with apprehension.
Yep.
There is a lot of good, just throwaway, like funny lines and
just
goofy things.
Like Beans' defense mechanism where she freezes.
Yeah.
You know? It's just, that's played, they don't overplay it, but it's just a great comic effect when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Rango's face after the first time.
He's just like,
Yeah,
what?
well, it's he has little beady eyes, but they kind of get a little bit bigger, and he just this crooked face. And God, it's funny.
Yeah.
Just all the little details. I was watching the special features. All these creatures. They had a whole house of dudes. They like rented a house in the Hollywood Hills for a year and just sat down and like created creatures for this story. And the main guy was this guy named Crash McCreary, who is I want to say he's done some children's books, but he's a big guy in Hollywood. He's a great creature designer. And like every creature kind of went through him, and they made sure like each one, like we said, had its own personality and story and wasn't boring and wasn't just a stock character, So, all these guys, and yeah, the vocal performances get it, and they just make these great little characters, and everybody's just good. So,
I want to talk about the cinematography.
oh yeah.
Really great Western pastiche tropes. There's like a wind chime made out of broken bottles, and we frame Rango through that. You know
And
what I mean?
rack focuses to him.
Exactly. And then like the sunsets in this movie were unbelievable.
There's a great shot where they're running on their roadrunners
Right.
in their posse.
And then there's a big plume of smoke or dust.
Yeah.
And the sky is looks like flames. You know what I
There's
mean?
the desert heat in the foreground rising. It's just how'd they do that in a computer?
And then there's like little details that are like things that I feel like you would discover in live action, but you'd have to just think about doing animated. So like when Rango is dejected and he's walking back towards the highway in the desert, he's walking on the top of the dunes right where it crests, and his footprints are like his feet. Every time he steps, it causes a little bit of the sand to fall down in right where his foot is, only right there though. And so like that effect is really cool. But that's something I feel like you would just, if you were, when you were blocking the shot, you would be like, oh, that's a cool, we should frame it so we capture that. But they had to think about that. And like, everyone is really thirsty in this movie. So there's like, when you see the condensation on the water glasses and stuff, it's just like these little things that are just
and
like.
the way the bubbles swirl when like the turtle has this, does the turtle have a name? I can't remember.
Yeah, just call him the turtle.
All right, played brilliantly by Ned Beatty, who's from Deliverance. Yeah, when he has like this rainwater that's like his private stock of water, and when he pours it, it's like the way it looks, the way it swirls, how clear it is. Yeah, it makes it this very object of desire the way like and it kind of looks the same way when they're in the bank, and the big water jug is there, and it's the water looks like something that's unattainable. It's really cool.
His name is Mayor.
Mayor, okay, yeah. That's what I thought. So, yeah, a couple other shots. Going back to being shot like a movie, there's a showdown with Bad Bill, and Bad Bill is like in the third of the frame, like his one eye, but then you see his two compadres. That's very like Sergio Leone type shot.
Yeah, spaghetti western, yeah.
A shot I really love is when they go to the mole village, and Spoons has alerted them, and all the bats start flying out. And Spoons is in the foreground on his Roadrunner running, and then in the background there's the bats start dive bombing. It's like, that's a really cool shot.
Yes,
too.
yes.
It's like multiple levels of action happening.
And he's on top of the cliff, so they're dive bombing straight down, and then on that perspective, it looks like they're just like going down to nothingness. Also, that whole fight was
the water jug chase.
That is Mad Max. And if anyone says it's not influenced by Mad Max, that's just not true.
They directly said in the behind the scenes, like, this is a Mad Max. Like, they didn't just want to chase. They were like, we need, Gore Verbinski is like, we can't just have them run down this canyon. We need, what if they ride bats? And what if they have machine guns on these bats and dynamite on these bats?
Yeah.
And what about that blows up so it looks like the bats blow up? And it's,
a lot of bats blowing up. It's crazy. There's also a surreal hierarchy to like what is an intelligent creature and what is not. Like pigs are not intelligent creatures.
Yeah,
Roadrunners are not.
Yeah, pigs and roadrunners are used for transportation, like ox and horses.
Right, and bats too.
And bats. Yeah.
But then like little mammals are, and then like there's one at one point when Rango first gets to dirt and he's trying to impersonate people. There's like a gigantic bug. We never go back to that guy though. He looks like a gigantic beetle or something walking around. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so there's like lizards and snake. It's just so weird. It's like it works. So it's interesting, but it's like, you know, if this movie was like not good, it's such a risky thing because it's like everything in this is only a good idea if it works, right? Mm-hmm. The idea of making that separation only works if it works, and it does work, which is good. But if it didn't work, this movie would be. If you didn't like this movie, you would just hate every goddamn thing about it.
Yeah, you got to buy in pretty early to Rango's design. You know, he was based off of Don Knotts, so he's kind of this like wiry, you know. He's kind of an ugly little lizard, and he's going to be the guy you're going to spend 2 hours with. You know,
right.
So
yeah, he has a weird crooked neck.
Yeah, his neck bends, and you know he looks like a Ralph Steadman drawing, the guy who does all the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas type stuff.
And in terms of like cute characters, the cutest characters we spend at least. There's like a cat that kind of has a cute look to it, like. You know what I mean? Like
Abigail Breslin's mouse is kind of cute.
I thought it was a baby possum.
Is it? Yeah.
She's a little thing. Yeah, but it is weird looking. It has really big eyes.
Yeah, she's got big eyes. Mouth is small. Mm-hmm. And yeah, people have. Yeah, they're like kind of deformed. Not deformed, but yeah, just really grizzled and rugged. You know, like they've lived in this western town for a long time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are no cute characters in this.
Also, when Rango claims to kill the 7 Jenkin brothers with one bullet, the boast is an allusion to the fairy tale The Valiant Little Tailor who kills 7 flies with one swipe of his hand, but convinces everyone that he killed 7 men with one blow.
Okay, gotcha. Whoosh. Yeah, that doesn't add to this. Like
that's the sound of something going over my head.
You don't need that to enjoy that story.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Also, just in terms of,
I also like, not to interrupt.
No, good.
The way it builds up, where somebody just says, "Oh, you killed them Jenkin brothers," and Rango's like, "Oh yeah, I totally did." With one bullet, he makes the boast, and then the cat goes, all 7 of them.
And he's like, yep.
And then he's got to pull that story out of his ass.
But
one of them died from infection.
To this movie's credit, though, we see that he is an imaginative storyteller. So it's not unbelievable to see him just power talking his way through this.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is the movie's weird, but the storytelling is good enough to pay off all of these weird things. And so, you know, like... he's pretending to be a sheriff, and he fucks up by helping the moles steal the water.
Gives him a prospecting permit.
Yeah, so then prospecting permit, but then it turns into like a posse chase movie, right? And it's like that's a real fun kind of story, right? You know, us and the guys are gonna go with these clues, and they find. But the movie's like it kind of leads into the idea. This movie's dark. There's lots of drinking. There's lots of smoking. There's lots of murder. You know what I mean? It's like a western, an unapologetic western, in the guise of a kids movie, and it's really handling kids without gloves.
It has life and death stakes, you know?
Right.
Kind of like Fantastic Mr. Fox before it. Mm-hmm. And I think some other animated movies, Watership Down is one. I think a lot of kids' movies are like, if we don't do this, then our friend will like disappear or whatever. Right. It's not like our friend's going to die.
Right.
You know, but in this movie, it's like people are going to die if this doesn't work.
Yeah, I feel like as a kid, I would be the kind of kid who would like this.
Oh, yeah.
It pushes a limit that I think as a kid, you know, everyone is always obsessed with like the idea of like, don't be too scary and be safe or whatever, but it's like, you kind of need that like maniacal edge. And I mean, listen, homie, I mean, for an adult, it's a very soft maniacal edge.
Yeah.
But for a kid, it's like, you know, the off screen, a character dies and we find his corpse. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's covered in bugs or anything. It's just like, you know, it's not holding back.
It's a dead squirrel, you know.
Yeah.
And if I was like 6 or 7, I would have latched onto this movie and loved it because, you get coddled a little bit, and I think kids, especially these days, I think they can handle tougher content. You know, they can handle.
It's tough. Like, you know, I know now. I'm at the point in my life where I know people with kids. You know what I mean? And it's tough because I think in retrospect, a lot of that comes from having to be the person responsible for someone. So like, you don't want your kid to watch Alien too young because you're gonna be the fucking motherfucker who wakes up in the middle of the night when your kid has a nightmare. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're dealing with
It is a fine line.
that thing, but at the same time, as the kid, you know what I mean. You can't just be like you
can't tell them-
They all can't be VeggieTales.
Exactly. It's they have to learn. As someone who's not a parent, and I
Right.
don't have a kid, but I feel like you're raising them to be ready for the world on their own, and the world's not always going to be cute and cuddly, and everything's going to be okay in the end. There's got to be that edge of like
Stakes.
there's got to be some stakes in it. And I think this movie has really good stakes. Fantastic Mr. Fox. Another movie, if I was saw that when I was 7, I'd be all over it because I was kind of a weirder kid. But yeah, there's just life and death stakes, and people that need help, and not everybody's well off, and you got to do what you can do.
Also, this is where I will put over How to Train Your Dragon. Stakes in that movie. Spoilers. Loses a foot. Second movie. Loses his dad. Stakes.
Yeah.
Steaks.
Stakes.
So let's get some steaks after this.
Yeah, good idea. Good point.
All right, you got anything else to sum up this Rango?
The animation is incredible.
It is really good. It is very good animation.
The detail. There's this really quick shot where they zoom in on the mayor's Fox's secretary, and it's a shot of her blankly reading her magazine, looks up at Rango, looks back down.
Right.
Her eyes are like super detailed. Her fur, you can see like the individual furs, like just, and that's just one shot. And this movie is filled with there's so many different textures. Rango's a chameleon. His eyes have this different texture. His skin is texture. There's rodents. There's moles. They all have all these different skin types, and it's just everything looks so believable, but in a cartoony way.
Yeah, there's like a really scaly lizard that looks really good.
Yeah.
He's the one. He's like in the gang, and then the gang later.
Bad Bill, right?
Yeah, and then later they're playing golf.
Yep.
And they're all like, "We got new hats."
Yep.
And the movie never it gets dark, but it always is able to find the humor in a situation too. So it's not like it's not taking itself. It takes itself like people they're taking the movie seriously and the movie making seriously, but they are not forgetting that we're having fun here.
Yeah, towards the end, there's the big crow who's like the Indian, and he gets shot.
Yeah, and it's a sad scene.
He falls out of the tower, but he's like, "Well, that didn't work."
Yeah, I like
there's stuff like that.
I like that character design too. That was a good one.
Yep. And he's like, "You kill bird dead, snake come," and then like that introduces Rattlesnake Jake, and so yeah, it's just this whole world is just I love this world that Verbinski built and his team, and it's just there's nothing like it out there.
So this kind of do you have anything else to say, or do you want to get these wrap up?
No, let's get in the wrap up.
Wrap up, and we'll get out of here. We've touched upon this, and I think we could just kind of sum it up. The question would be like, is this a kids movie? And there's some parental groups that had issues with this movie. And, it references a lot of adult themes in movies like Chinatown and Apocalypse Now. I would say that this is a movie a kid could like. And I think this is the kind of movie where you got to give kids more credit than adults usually do. You know what I mean? And maybe don't show this to your 3-year-old. Maybe, but like
a very young kid would probably get too frightened by it. But yeah, 6 or 7, 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, this is fun.
Perfectly suitable for him.
We'll circle back to the Western in a minute. I want to talk about one last thing about the Western.
Yeah.
But before we get there, do you think this movie specifically is too idiosyncratic, or are we just used to animated films being safe?
I think we're used to them being safe.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think also that relative safety is our perception and nostalgia about it, right? Like bad shit happens in movies, like Bambi's mother dies. You know what I mean? Like spoilers for Bambi, spoilers for all the Walt Disney shit. Like people die, witches poison people. People lose faith and hope. Like in the Hunchback of Notre Dame, a guy gets stabbed in the back.
Yep.
Oh, not Hunchback of Notre Dame. Beauty and the Beast.
Oh yeah.
Gaston stabs the dude in this. It's like bad shit happens, but because we love these works, we kind of forgive them for going too far, quote unquote. And I think this movie's really out there, but I think it doesn't go too far. I think it's in good taste. Overall.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I just don't think we've seen this in a CGI computer animated movie yet. We've seen it in a lot of 2D animation films, but just not really in the big, because that's still reserved for like Pixar, DreamWorks, those kind. I think this one, I hope it kind of starts the big. Let's, like Verbinski said, let's get the Ralph Bakshi's of the world making these really different CGI or 3D animated films.
Right. I think. Yeah, and I think that the world's opening up a little bit more as people make good work. You know what I mean? If you can make something good, I think people are more into it. It's tough though because people do see animated and think family, but then how do you explain Adult Swim? You know what I mean? So there's a weird distinction between movies and film, but I think this movie shows you that you could make something weird, different, off key, and it'll still be okay.
Yep.
Do you think this film plays with Western tropes? Do we think there's a tie-in into finding the spirit of the West in that?
Yeah, I think it's always plays in the idea of like the lone gunman, the lone guy is going to save the world. But Rango does a lot of posturing in the beginning, and he learns the spirit of the West helps him learn what that actually means.
Right.
So it's I think it does that Western, that well-worn Western idea in kind of a new, fresh way. So
right. So piggybacking on the Western thing, so I feel like we have this very romantic notion of the Western as a subgenre of filmmaking. There's and I think that nostalgia is fueled by the idea that it used to rule pop culture, right? Like there used to be a ton of Westerns, 2 or 3 Westerns every month for many years, right? There's a glut of just Westerns. There's Westerns they made in other countries to compete with the Westerns here.
From like the 30s to the 70s, it's
right.
just Westerns on top of Westerns on Westerns.
But, the amount of them is kind of indicative of the classic Hollywood move of overexposing a genre for profit. And it's, I think, relatable to the superhero movie of today, right? Where it's like, people are not making these because they thought that this was a good method to tell a story. They're making them, like all businesses, to make money. And they're like, people like horses and fucking gunmen and lone dudes figuring shit out. It's very American. Let's just make more of these, right? And then other people in other countries were like, Americans love this shit. Let's make more of these and import them. You know what I mean? So I feel like, does this expose our shitty nostalgia, or does this expose our shitty dour attitudes to what's going on now? Right?
That's a good question.
Because everyone is like, oh, there's so many superhero movies. I hate them, but I'll go see all of them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like
they make money every weekend, don't they?
So, like, should we just embrace trends and, like, stop fighting? Like, I feel like people get mad at trends when they notice them. Like, oh, you know what? I noticed a lot of found footage horror movies. I don't like it because I know that people are making a conscious effort to do a thing. You know what I mean? No one, right now, there's not a backlash against the ghost horror movie that's kind of popular going on right now. Right? There is a backlash against the superhero movie because we see that people make superhero movies. And it's like, should we just shut up and just, because this has always happened with music. Musicals and Westerns are 2 things that Hollywood pumped out. And there's tons of shitty ones. But we forget about all of those and we just focus on the classics.
Yeah, we always remember the good ones. That's what people always say. Oh, music in the 70s was so much better than music.
It's like, no,
just because you only remember the good shit.
Yeah.
There's plenty of bad shit in the 70s. People were on LSD. They made terrible music.
Right.
So, but there's kind of a cycle. We talked about this in my film class. There's a cycle with any genre.
Yes.
It's the primitive is the first one. That's we'll use the Western for example. That's like the Great Train Robbery.
Right.
That's the
someone coming up with an idea and figuring it out.
Exactly. It's the first Western basically ever made film. Then you've got, it's like the Foundation one. That's not the exact term.
But yeah, the one that, the one
this
was successful and this is what we read as the thing.
Yeah, solidifies the genre tropes. And that was Stagecoach. John Ford's Stagecoach from like 1939, something like that.
Also, which is a fantastic fucking movie.
It's a great, that movie has held up. And another one
also, my favorite sub-subgenre of dudes going from this side to that side and got to fight our way through the middle.
Yeah,
Love it.
Great. And then you get the parody, which once you get all those ones that just follow the rules of the genre, and it gets worn out and it gets tiring, we get inundated with it. Then you get the parody.
Because everyone knows the tropes, so now we can make fun of them.
And that's Blazing Saddles.
Right.
You know, again, it didn't just make fun of Western tropes, it made fun of racism in Westerns. Mm-hmm. And then you get the revisionist one,
right.
which for the Western is really Unforgiven. Because it turned the outlaw into the hero.
Right.
So then once you hit revisionist, it's hard to go back to the foundation ones and just make another one because everybody knows all the beats you're going to do.
Right.
So, yeah, when that genre hits that saturation point, you gotta start doing something different with it, or people have found you out, and it's not gonna do anything for anybody anymore.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think my take on this is that we do have a shitty nostalgia where we forgive the sins of older generation, in this case, like one generation ago, or two at the most. We forgive them for their whatever, and we look at it in rose-colored glasses. Like, they didn't try to exploit a genre to make money. They were just like, that's what people liked.
Yep.
Man, it's as simple as that. It's a simpler time. That pour me a drink argument. You know what I mean? And I think it also does expose our shitty dour attitudes where, you know what I mean? Like, listen, if you don't actually like something, you don't like it, that's fine. But if you just recognize, it ties in exactly what you're saying, right? Where it's like, we're reaching the point of where we could get to parody, where someone could do that, right? Where you know the tropes of what's going on. Like, there's a guy, and he's an everyday guy, and he gets something happens, and then he gets power, and he has to, with great power comes great responsibility, he has to do fucking whatever, and he teams up with all his other friends who also want the same thing as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's like, just because we can recognize that doesn't intrinsically make it shitty. If it is shitty, then it is shitty. But just because you understand what it is, that doesn't make it less good.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Genres have tropes for a reason. It's because they worked. Mm-hmm. If they didn't work the first time, nobody's going to repeat it the second time. People love dudes in cowboy hats. People love dudes in capes right now.
Right.
So it's...
I think what you're going to say is think for yourself.
Think for your damn self.
Right.
Like what you like, and don't discount something just because it's part of a trend.
Yeah.
It's like, if it's worthy, if it's a good piece of art, if it's a good story, it will stand the test of time.
And I think people attribute this like to internet culture, and I think internet culture is where it just shines through because there's just so many. Any comment thread would be the place where you'd find this kind of attitude. But I feel like that is something that I don't know if it's human nature, I don't know if it's American nature, I don't know if it's modern culture. I think it's not just modern culture. I think people always feel that way, right? Where if I understand it, then it must be dumb or something, And it's like, no, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
You can appreciate it for what it's trying to do. So.
Right.
And recognize the ones that really try to break out of the box, which is why I wanted to talk about Rango and bring it on this podcast.
Yeah, and I think, we've done a lot of animated movies on this podcast so far for the relatively low amount of episodes that we've done. 11 by my count by this point.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is something that worth talking about and worth re-examining, right? I do think I missed out on it when it came out in 2011. You know what I mean? I think it was...
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
So
It is an interesting modern animated movie. It's completely... While it transcends the genre while being a entry in the genre of family animated movies, right? Mm-hmm. It goes beyond it, but at the same time, it is it. And it's a weird spot to be in, but it is... Things do that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I think the Avengers did that, where it transcends the scope of a traditional superhero movie, but it is a superhero movie by having it be a team-up movie. And, there's a lot of examples of those kinds of things, but, I think do I like this movie and does it work? It's bizarro as shit, and I think it knows what it wants to be, and it uses that to its advantage, and it tells a story with those things, simple theme, bizarre world, and I think it's a great movie. I loved it. It's great.
Great. I'm so happy you liked it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you, but those first 5 minutes were just like, what are we doing?
You gotta hang on.
And it's some movies start that way and never get out of that mode. They're, some of them play at film festivals and never go anywhere else, where it's just a guy in a room talking about acting, and you're like, I really wish someone would A gigantic snake would shoot a Gatling gun at some bats about now. I had to wait for it, Kev, but they paid it off.
It pulled off.
Yeah.
They got it. Shall we go into nitpicks and cool things?
Yeah.
Nitpicks and
I
cool
feel like
things.
I think we kind of skipped them, but
Well, I've got
we'll circle back.
I've got some nitpicks and some cool things. Not
All right.
many nitpicks.
What are your nitpicks?
Timothy Olyphant's voice didn't quite mesh with that character.
You don't think so? I was okay. Well, I'll say. There's lots of bugs, roly polies to be specific. Super gross.
I don't mind rolling.
Bugs are gross. Bugs are
that's
gross.
fine. I would like more Ray Winstone as Bad Bill. I think he kind of got glossed over a little bit. So
The beginning is really negative and focuses on death. Like, it's like, what the fuck are we talking
just a
about
little
right now?
bit. We're your friends now, amigo. His little fish talking to him.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I don't have many nitpicks.
The song, my last one is the Songbirds, the ones that are always playing like the mariachi
Yeah,
stuff.
the owl mariachi.
Yeah, they're always singing. They're always like, he's gonna die, and this is the story about how he dies. And then in the end, it's like he doesn't die, and then they're kind of like, yeah, I guess he'll die one day. And it's like, what the fuck was the point of this? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
I like the little mariachi owl.
No, and I like them too. And I thought they're first of all, we didn't say this, and I'm not gonna save it for cool stuff. I'm not gonna save it for cool stuff, but the music in this movie was great.
Hans Zimmer, folks.
Hans Zimmer doing shit that I didn't think Hans Zimmer knew how to do, like
Okay.
play electric guitar.
Yep.
So the birds were great. Their musical interludes were great. How they interacted with the audience was great. How they interacted with the Rango was great because he can see them.
Yeah,
at
they're
one
part
point.
of the story.
They're part of the story. And I do like them kind of dropping in a little narration. That's totally fine. But they keep hounding on his death, and one of them at one point gets bored. Like, well, is he gonna die soon? Like, I want to see him die, and like soon. But it's not like even he gets killed but comes back to life or something. You know what I mean? Like his heart stops for a minute. That doesn't happen. It just seems extraneous.
I can agree with that. Yeah, they hammer home the like, yeah, why are they so eager to see him die?
Right.
You know.
I feel like there's lots of movies that you see where you see middle-aged men go through their midlife crisis about death and the point of it all. I think Interstellar was that for what's his face,
Christopher Nolan.
and I think this was that for
Gordon Ramsay.
you know what I mean, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna die one day.
Could
And it
be.
doesn't matter how much money I have to die one day. And it's like, that's fine, old man, but you know,
Quit yelling at that cloud.
yeah, old man yells at cloud.
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff. I'm gonna kick it off in.
I'm going to preface this. I'm mostly going to say lines that I like from this movie. that think are great,
I
so.
encourage it. So to start it off, great music.
What's that thing in your head? Oh, that's conjunctivitis. It's not contagious, as he has an arrow in his head.
We touched upon this. Great animation details, perspiration on a cup, sand dunes, sand, fur, great stuff.
When he goes, we would just be a bunch of animals, and then there's that shot of just them, and then the
being
guy
animals.
scratches his ear.
The world feels huge, not only the animal world, but also the human world too. Also, not to other westerns, which what's his face Gore did in the Lone Ranger, where they're supposed to. There's a great reveal that it's supposed to be in Vegas, but then in their travels they see the Mesa plateaus in Arizona, and then there's flat like Utah salt flats, and there's like just regular desert that you find in California, and there's mountains and stuff. So they really make it a pastiche of Western settings.
Yep. Jug band version of Ride of the Valkyrie, great. That whole sequence, great, and yeah, just kicked off brilliantly with banjo, string bass, jug version of Ride of the Valkyries.
Too many cool things for 1 minute. There's great lighting in this movie. The lighting is really great when they're in the bar, and it's like you get that high dynamic range kind of effect where there's the bloom, there's like dark shadows and bright light. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that contrast just felt really cool, and the lighting is really great. Great lighting.
Yep. Yeah. All the camera work, all the filmmaking aesthetics, just top notch in this.
And the rattlesnake, great.
Yep. Rattlesnake Jake. I like how big he feels, how dangerous he feels, and Bill Nighy's performance brings it all.
And he
all
does.
to life.
He is human. I mean, not human, but he is human in that he does have fears. He fears the bird. He's not the biggest. He is the biggest animal, but he has an Achilles heel, which is the bird.
Oh yeah, even when the mayor is pointing a gun at him and he kind of cowers. In
Yeah,
fear,
he's like,
he's only as powerful as whatever weapon is pointing or not pointing at him.
So which character did you say that you wanted to see more of?
Bad Bill. He's the like Komodo dragon looking one. Ray Winstone voiced him.
He was great, and I can see why you would want more of him. But it's kind of I think a strength of the movie that it leaves you wanting more for like all of the characters.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, in that way that you said, where it's like everyone could have their own little movie. You know what I mean, or even a big movie, or even multiple movies. So it's like you're kind of like, damn, dude, I want to know what the story with that dude is. And so it's a strength of the movie that you feel that way, but it does suck because you feel like you want more.
But yeah, I think you can kind of make the stories in your own head almost.
Yes.
So, I love the scene where they're in the sitting around the fire talking about all the things they've coughed up.
Yeah.
It's like, I coughed up a bunch of pygmies. They started looking at me weird. Just, God, that's funny.
Yeah. movie is just not afraid to
just
be what it wants to do.
Yeah. So yeah, and then that's why I wanted to bring it to this podcast. It was it was kind of filed under, this is another DreamWorks kind of movie. It's a non-Pixar.
You and your hatred of quote unquote DreamWorks style movies.
Just these average kind of movies with animals,
right?
But this one really pushes the envelope in a really exciting way. I want to see more filmmakers follow what Gore Verbinski has started here.
I think it's interesting because
you can do it without Disney. You can do it without these big companies.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people are getting into that game and they're no longer content to let Disney have it.
Yep.
I think you see that the most in Fox, where Fox has Fox Animation, which is doing the Peanuts movie right now. They have Blue Sky, they did all the Ice Age movies, and that other one with the people really small, Epic.
Yeah.
And then they got they're partnered with DreamWorks, so they're really attacked. And then also Fox also has Fox Sports 1 now, which is like ESPN. So they're really going after Disney in terms of like business model, where it's like we got sports, we got family animated stuff, we got superheroes, and then Disney stole Star Trek from them. I feel like there's an argument to be made that those are two competing studios for a lot of things.
Kind of competing in the background a little bit.
Yeah. It's a Cold War.
Yep.
It's a Cold War. But so they're doing that. Disney, Universal is partnered with Illumination. They're doing the Minion stuff, and Illumination, they've gotten greenlit a bunch of movies. You know what I mean? And what's interesting is that Viacom is really sleeping on this. They make animated movies They made the SpongeBob movie. They made Rango, but those are there's no regular churn for that. So it's interesting. And then Sony has Sony Animated Pictures, and they did like the Monster Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah.
So I feel like Fox probably has enough movies planned, so they probably won't be able to do it. But like your Sonys and your Paramounts and stuff, I mean, they got room to play in this field, right, where they can try to get some dates going. You know what I mean? Try to get some projects in the works. Mm-hmm. I just think people are afraid. They don't know how to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, you just gotta watch Rango. Rango's the blueprint right now. Mm-hmm. At least I think it is. Mm-hmm. It could be that primitive stage of bonkers 3D animation.
Right.
Who's gonna keep that trend?
Right. And I do think that we are primed. It seems like this is the time where it can happen, right? Movies are very popular. Kids' movies are very popular. Enthusiasm on movies is very popular, and people are not content from a business point to just let Disney do whatever they want. You know what I mean? And you would think, and in some ways, because the Disney movies are so hot right now and people are so yeehaw on animation, it's the right time, right? In the 90s when people were, not the 90s, the 80s when people were like, these fucking movies suck. It's not the right time to be like, hey, you know the movies you hate? Here's something else like that. Yep. You know what I mean? So, the enthusiasm is there. I think Rango shows that, let's make it. Let's do this shit.
Make whatever weird concept you got, pitch it, try it, work it out, hammer it out. Do what Gore did. Mm-hmm. Surround yourself with really creative people who are going to give you just really interesting input on it. So,
right.
And you're going to get something like Rango. That's really a standout movie. So, try it, folks.
Yeah, I want to see it happen.
Yep, I'm excited.
All right. So, do you have a sequel pitch for this?
I can't really think of one. I almost don't want a sequel.
I don't want a sequel to this movie. I think what we really wanted is all the dudes we said in the first half to just make an animated movie, bro. Mm-hmm. I don't really. the story, it's what they kept doing, right? They kept drawing a square. The story's a square. We're inside the square. That's it. We don't need another square next to it.
Exactly. Yeah. I love Rango. I love the world. I love all the characters. I don't need to see any other adventure in it.
Right.
Like, I feel like this told that story so well, and why stretch it any further?
Yeah, we want Warner Brothers just to make an animated division and green light.
Yep.
2 movies a year that are just
out of control.
Yeah.
And let George Miller make one.
Yeah, well, he knows how to fucking do it.
He does. He did Happy Feet, so...
I mean, Happy Feet kind of fits in that thing, except for it's the opposite end where it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a musical with penguins, and it's just like...
Even my 5-year-old... well, she's 10 now, but when Happy Feet came out, my 5-year-old... My cousin's daughter, so...
Your second cousin. Or
Second
something.
niece, whatever. Yeah, it's a movie about dancing penguins, and she was like, I don't like that movie, so...
Hey, I don't like it either, girl.
You couldn't even... Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
So that's it. Kev, you got anything you want to plug?
Keep my hot streak going. I have no plugs.
Hot streak going, no plugs. Keeping my hot streak going that I have liked every movie that we've done on this podcast. Keeping it alive.
Let's keep it going.
We'll see how long it can last. I think we can keep it going until the new year.
Yeah.
I think. But then we're gonna get into some uncharted territory, and I don't know. But until then, I think it might be possible.
We'll find something.
Yeah, we'll find something.
We'll find something you
for
hate.
me to hate. If we get to the new year without that, then I'll just pick a movie I don't like, and we'll just spend 2 hours just shit talking it.
We'll talk about some Katherine Heigl movie or something.
I'm not. I did like 27 Dresses. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Wow.
It's
Really?
If you look back on it, dude, it's not that bad.
Okay.
It's pretty good. All
I'll
right.
take it with
So, Kev.
Don't walk out of your own story, people.
Yeah. Stay in it.
Stay in the square.
See you later.
Have a good one.